You put your hands in some very funny places. Packing it all in.
You're packing it all in?
Oh, not again!
Well, you'll be sorry. You'll regret it.
Ah!
You made over £100,000 last year.
How much? I wish I could fly right up to the sky, but I can't. Oh, I can't.
Did you hear about the spinster who crossed the tortoise with an indicator? She got a very slow flasher.
A friend of mine crossed a beer mug with a budgerigar and got this bird who kept flying off the handle.
Boy George has just made a new record. There's always something there to remind me.
Police are today looking for a one-fingered pickpocket who only steals polo mints.
And we'd like to say good night to each and every one of you. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.
While the Laughter Show gang return next week, Lee Marvin and Jane Fonda move the comedy out west in Cat Ballou in just a moment.
Tomorrow, BBC1 premieres the success story of the British cinema, Chariots of Fire. Two matchless British champions chasing Olympic glory, driven by different obsessions.
I believe that God made me for a purpose. For China. But he also made me fast. And when I run, I feel his pleasure.
Do you love running?
I'm more of an addict. It's a compulsion, a weapon.
Against what?
Being Jewish, I suppose.
The Oscar-winning picture of Olympic-winning perfection, Chariots of Fire, tomorrow at 7:15 on BBC1.
In our next film, Lee Marvin won an Oscar for his double performance, and Jane Fonda the hearts of her outlaw gang in this rip-roaring comedy western about Cat Ballou.
Tonight, the two first ladies of the New York police, Cagney and Lacey, are back in action.
Standing around and ogling half-naked men is not my thing. Don't think of them as half-naked suspects. Scar on the right cheek. Come on, let's take him, get out of here. Hey, wait a minute. Doesn't see his act. He's not going anywhere in that outfit.
A new series of Cagney and Lacey tonight at 9:45.
The BBC television Shakespeare tonight is the powerful story of Coriolanus, with Alan Howard as the soldier hero destroyed by his own unyielding pride. Well, that's on BBC2 in just a moment. Here on 1 in 15 minutes, all roads lead to Brands Hatch in the final episode of Driving Ambition. First, the news and sport introduced by Jan Leeming. The time now exactly 8:40.
The Home Secretary says resolving the Libyan embassy deadlock is getting painfully slow. The police commissioner and his men are prepared to wait as long as it takes. Teachers say they'll strike for a day over pay. With the Libyan embassy siege in London now ending its 5th day, there are signs of growing impatience in Whitehall this evening at the lack of progress in negotiations with Libya. At the start of the day, there were fears that last night's bomb at Heathrow Airport might sour the delicate relationship between London and Tripoli. But the talks between the British ambassador and the Libyan foreign minister still appear to be friendly, if unproductive. Kate Adie is in the Libyan capital.
The British ambassador left his Tripoli residence this morning for a 3rd meeting with Libyan foreign ministry officials. And when he returned, he confirmed that negotiations were still going on in a good atmosphere.
Yes, the atmosphere was friendly and constructive.
Did you put new proposals or counter-proposals to Dr. Trakey this morning?
I'm afraid I'm not going to say anything about the content of the talks. We agreed that it would be best not to do so, but we're looking for a peaceful solution together.
Last night's incident at Heathrow Airport, was there any reaction to the British suggestions that Libyans were involved?
If you're referring to the talks with Dr. Trakey, again, I'd rather not comment. I'd rather not reply to that question, but I'm not aware of a reaction more generally in Libya to this so far.
You can say that negotiations are proceeding, though. They haven't come to a halt.
Oh, not at all. No, certainly. We had another good meeting this morning, and I'm sure we shall have another. Probably tomorrow, I suppose, or quite soon.
That the ambassador hasn't had any comment on the Heathrow bomb incident is not surprising. Official channels here in Libya take some time to coordinate their reactions. And one Libyan news agency has been putting out a statement saying that there is a limit to Libyan patience and that they regard the continuation of the London siege as an insult. All in all, though, it is very possible for the Libyans to level accusations and complaints against the British while at the same time pursuing serious negotiations for a peaceful solution to the siege. And those talks do continue.
In London, the patient negotiating between police and the Libyans inside the embassy has been going on throughout the day. Nicholas Witchell has been watching events in and around St James's Square.
Isolated from the rest of the capital city, St James's Square can never have known 5 days of such silence. The policemen's helmets, torn off in the haste to give help when WPC Fletcher fell, still lie on the road in front of the Libyan bureau. Her hat has been carried a short distance by the wind. On the approach roads in behind the blue tarpaulins, the police wait. Little of their operation is visible. Tucked away in the offices are the specialists, the psychiatrists, the electronic eavesdroppers, and the intelligence men. All that the Libyans can see clearly from their front windows is one armour-plated police Land Rover which juts into their view. It is all a test of patience, stamina, and resolve. But there are a few who find a moment to relax. This morning, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Kenneth Newman, toured his men's positions. At one stage, he was shown across the rooftops to where the police riflemen and the observers lie. From the rooftops, this is the area immediately in front of the Libyan office, silent and deserted. The view for the 20 to 30 diplomats and others confined in the bureau, broken only by the arrival of food. Late this afternoon, there was a delivery. Police said bread and milk had been taken into them. Later still, Sir Kenneth Newman returned, his second visit of the day, immediately after the Cabinet Emergency Committee had broken up. He stayed for several hours. Well, in the only statement they've issued today which has amounted to anything at all, the police have said, and this is their language, that negotiations with the Libyans in the bureau have been proceeding calmly and patiently, and that there has been no change of mood among the participants. One of the Libyans, who's evidently been acting as an intermediary, left here about half an hour ago. His precise role has never been fully defined. Just now, the night shift of police officers is beginning to take up position around St James's Square, but on the ground, quite clearly, there is very little change.
Scotland Yard say the number of people injured in last night's bombing at Heathrow Airport is now confirmed at 25. 5 people are still in hospital, 1 in a special burns unit. 2 Libyan students who were being questioned by the police have been released. Andrew Taylor was at Heathrow soon after the explosion.
Last night's bomb shattered the baggage reclaim area where it was left and damaged confidence in Heathrow's existing security arrangements. The 2-pound bomb, described by police as a military type of explosive, had been hidden in a suitcase among a pile of unclaimed baggage. Passengers from all over Europe had passed through the terminal, and there'd also been a flight from Libya. Police and airport security staff are now urgently looking for ways of tightening security after the airport's first bomb for 10 years. But Commander Bill Hucklesby accepts that this bomber could already be out of the country.
He could be in this country. On the other hand, he could have flown out on the return flight to Libya, or on a return flight from any of those other 80 that flew in. It's all speculation at this stage.
But you do seem to be speculating particularly about the Middle East.
Yes, because of the type of bomb that it is.
Heathrow seemed back to normal today, but detectives and security men were mingling with the passengers. There's a Libyan Arab Airlines plane due in tomorrow, and that's likely to meet a much tougher security regime.
The mood in Whitehall tonight is one of impatience, heightened by last night's bomb outrage at Heathrow. Though there have been no firm details about the Libyans' latest response, it's quite evident that little progress has been made. The British and Libyan positions are still far apart, and there are few indications that either side has moved significantly from its original stance. Britain's terms for ending the siege are that everyone should leave the building. All should be questioned by the police. The killer of policewoman Yvonne Fletcher identified, and the People's Bureau searched in the presence of a Libyan diplomat or a suitable third party. Colonel Gaddafi, on the other hand, has called for the police to withdraw and for the 30 or so Libyans inside the building to be allowed to leave unhindered. COBRA, the government's special emergency committee handling the siege, met for 2 hours at the Cabinet Office in Whitehall this afternoon. They were briefed by the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Kenneth Newman, who'd come straight from St James's Square. Afterwards, I asked the Home Secretary how the negotiations were going.
They are going painfully slowly. We'll be sending another message to the ambassador this evening, but we really do feel that this is a matter that must be resolved quickly, and obviously feelings are exacerbated by the bomb, a terrible outrage that occurred yesterday.
Is there a clear link now between that bomb and the Libyan siege?
It has not been proved conclusively, but that's the situation, and we'll be meeting again tomorrow and have sent a further message to the ambassador.
Are you any near? The Prime Minister, who's not returning to Downing Street from Chequers until Monday night, is being kept closely in touch with the negotiations and is backing Mr Britain's firm line. But tonight, the chances of ending the siege by the end of the Easter break are looking extremely slim.
Bill Hamilton, our Home Affairs correspondent. The National Union of Teachers Conference in Blackpool has voted overwhelmingly to take industrial action to get an improved pay offer. Teachers in England and Wales will hold a one-day strike on May the 9th, and they'll work to rule from the start of next term. From Blackpool, Colin Philpott.
Delegates were in determined mood despite yesterday's proposal of new talks and the likelihood of some increase on the 3% they've been offered. Teachers say even the 4.5% accepted by Scottish colleagues wouldn't go anywhere near making up ground lost over the last decade. Some proposed an all-out strike.
I think if a lead was given by the National Executive for extended strike action in selected areas, I think that response would be made by the membership.
But the conference agreed to a one-day stoppage and a work to rule, including refusing cover for absent colleagues. It's the first major national action plan by teachers since 1969.
There comes a time when enough is enough, and I think teachers do feel frustrated and angry and bitter, and therefore reluctantly they'll take part in the sanctions that the executive is recommending.
If talks with the employers fail to produce a settlement, then the overwhelming majority of teachers in England and Wales will be committed to industrial action next term. But teachers' leaders have said that won't mean any disruption to examinations.
There were violent scenes at a meeting of the right-wing British National Party in Liverpool this afternoon. About 300 demonstrators converged on the Adelphi Hotel where the rally was being held. Some broke in and the two sides began fighting in the ballroom. A reporter from BBC Radio Merseyside was inside when the violence started.
One young fella's giving the Hitler salute. And he's been hit over the head. The chairs are going now. Chairs are going. Metal staves. There's seats going. One man's been hit on the head by a seat. They're facing each other. The thing's flying back. Glass. Oh, there's a metal thing. The metal thing gone now. There's seats going in. There's real anger now. It's building up.
The demonstrators eventually left the building, and Liverpool church leaders appealed to the crowds for calm as police surrounded the hotel to keep the two factions apart. Peace protesters have been marking Easter Saturday with demonstrations at 10 American nuclear bases in Scotland. Around 1,000 peace campaigners converged on Dunoon on the Clyde. They marched to the nearby American nuclear submarine base at Holy Loch. 5 people were arrested for obstruction. Similar demonstrations were held at the same time at 9 other bases from Thurso in the north to Prestwick in the south. They all passed off peacefully. In West Germany, thousands of anti-nuclear protesters have been continuing their Easter holiday demonstrations throughout the country. One of the largest was in the town of Duisburg. There were some arrests at one American airbase, but otherwise the rallies were free of confrontations. In New York, hundreds of people turned out for the funeral of 8 of the 10 women and children found murdered in a Brooklyn house last week. Police believe the killings were related to drug trafficking. Now, with news of today's sport, here's David Cass.
Kenny Dalglish scored the third of Liverpool's 3 goals in 9 minutes that gave them victory over West Bromwich Albion and kept them on top of the Canon League. Peter Davenport scored twice for third-placed Nottingham Forest, who thrashed Birmingham 5-1. Fourth-placed QPR had goalkeeper Peter Hucker to thank for keeping the scores level early in their match against Leicester at Loftus Road. Except for 2 fine pieces of football, the first a good run the length of the pitch by QPR's Wayne Faraday, you could have been forgiven in the first half for believing that the players, like the spectators, were simply out for an afternoon in the sun. Then a tenacious piece of play by Simon Stainrod allowed Gary Micklewhite to lay on Clive Allen's 6th goal in 8 matches for Rangers. The Londoners put the match beyond dispute with their first attack after the interval, though Faraday's shot was helped by an uneven bounce. From then on, it was shooting practice, as QPR at least showed their supporters some football. Their big central defender, Steve Wicks, nearly proved as effective in the goalmouth as in midfield. But towards the end, goalkeeper Hucker saved another point-blank shot. Leicester hadn't attacked much, but can count themselves unlucky to have found Hucker on form. QPR 2, Leicester 0. Life isn't so good at the bottom of the division. Wolves captain Jeff Palmer was carried off injured during a 3-0 home defeat by Ipswich. 6,000 were at Molineux, 30 years ago to the day since 50,000 saw Wolves win the championship. John Scott, who's been restored to the captaincy of the England Rugby Union side, led his club, Cardiff, to a record 52-16 victory over the barbarian tourists. Cardiff scored 10 tries and never looked back after they'd taken an early lead.
Well, that was taken by Alan Phillips against the head, so Holmes has the chance to run, and on to Tim Crothers. Crothers with Cornwall in attendance. Good try. Metres out. Gareth Davies. Donovan on the short pass. Clean through. Checked beautifully. Donovan's try. Down by Phillips. It's Golding again. And these 2 back row men, if they're rivals, are certainly both making them up. And now it's Holmes, almost toying with his opposition. The chip through meant for Hadley to chase. Stringer misses it, Hadley recovers it, Phillips. It had to be.
Sebastian Coe's 3rd race of the season proved the best indicator yet that he's on the way back to form. He and another British world record holder who was handicapped by illness, David Moorcroft, ran in the 3A's Road Relay Championships in the unlikely surroundings of a park near Birmingham. As Steve Lee reports, both came through the test well.
Sebastian Coe is very much a clubman these days, and wearing the vest of Haringey at Sutton Park, he rubs shoulders with athletes who normally only dream of sharing the track with him. Coe ran the 3.1-mile short stage and showed that his winter training had sharpened his appetite. His time of 14 minutes in a gusty wind was the 2nd fastest of the day and lifted his team 6 places up the field. Another familiar face, another world record holder. Dave Moorcroft, running for Coventry Godiva, is back from a winter in New Zealand and Australia. He ran the longer 5.6-mile stage in an impressive 25 minutes, 45 seconds, again the 2nd fastest. But the efforts of Moorcroft and Co., although of great personal value, didn't do their club sides much good. Tipton Harriers took the title, with Haringey and Coventry not even in the first four.
Ken Hitchens and Pauline Stevenson got married in Merthyr Tydfil today, and if it was fifth time lucky, as Elvin Thomas explains.
At long last, they've made it. Pauline and Ken have become Mr. and Mrs. Hitchings at the fifth attempt. Their wedding was first planned for the summer of 1979, but Ken got run over and broke his leg. They postponed until January 1980, but just before the ceremony, Ken broke his leg again. So back to the drawing board, and 6 months later, in August 1980, Ken got as far as his stag night, but he got a little over-enthusiastic during a pub crawl, and, you've guessed it, ended up in plaster again. The fourth attempt was last Christmas, but a burglary during which all the wedding presents were stolen forced yet another postponement. This time, however, Pauline did have a trump card up her sleeve. She'd bought a new wedding dress, because the old one might have had a jinx on it, and after all, it was getting a little old-fashioned.
That's all from David and me on BBC1. Good night.
Hello. Well, for that wedding, they certainly had it warm and close. I do hope they have a little sun later. In fact, as far as sunshine's concerned, a lot of it to come yet for the bank holiday. I think especially down in southern parts, it will get cooler, though, as this high pressure pushes across and brings in an easterly wind. Up in the north, this front has brought a little bit of rain, but that is now dying away completely. In fact, if we look on the satellite picture, it shows just the remnants left now over southern parts of Ireland there, and a little bit coming into England. But that is really fading away all the time. And as far as tomorrow's concerned, another dry day with a good deal of sunshine. But as I've already said, with the winds turning easterly down over in southern parts of the country, it will turn a good deal cooler than it has been today, particularly, I think, right along that eastern coast, with the wind coming in off the sea, 11 centigrades, only 52 Fahrenheit. And there will be patches of cloud running along that eastern coast too. And then on Easter Monday, it looks as though it's going to be another dry day with a fair amount of sunshine. The highest temperature, I think, up in northern, northwestern parts of England, 23 centigrade is 73 Fahrenheit. Still cooler in this southeastern part, particularly near that coast, and up in northwestern parts of Scotland too. I think you'll have a fair amount of cloud from time to time. Well, that's it for me. Bye-bye.
Highlights of your Easter Day entertainment on BBC1. At 7:15, Chariots of Fire, the television premiere of a triumph of the British cinema. The Oscar-winning success story of two great Olympic champions.
I'd like to wish you the best of success. Thank you. And may the best man win.
At 9:15, Mastermind reaches the first semi-final, and returning to answer questions on new subjects are Bob Fowkes, Primrose Wood, Richard Joby and Malcolm Parnell. At 10 o'clock, I Was Jesus, some celebrated actors giving their reactions to undertaking this demanding role.
Obviously was a man that had incredible magnetism and a great sense of for the teachings and philosophies of life, you know. I mean, there's a load of sense in the Bible.
Chariots of Fire, Mastermind, and I Was Jesus. Highlights of Easter Day on BBC1.
On BBC1 now, 4 ladies, each blessed with her own driving force. In 50 minutes, the return of New York cops Cagney and Lacey. That's after Jen and Donna, who are on the final stage in achieving their driving ambition.
From the start you knew there were no easy ways. You couldn't hope to coast ordinary days.